takes another step forward, and the guy takes him and he puts him under the water. And the kid's kicking and screaming. And he's kicking and screaming. The guy puts him, he's like, I thought you want it bad.
That's not nice.
I thought you want it bad. And so he takes the kid out before he passes out. And he asks the kid, what was the only thing that was going on through your mind while you were under the water? Somebody answer that.
To breathe.
To breathe. And the man said, until you the same amount of need you wanted to breathe, until you realize how much you want to breathe, until you realize how bad you want to be successful. So until it comes to your realization, until you realize, man, I want to be this successful, this bad, the same way how bad you want it to breathe. Because without breathing, what's going to happen? You're going to die. Everything's gone. So you understand the connection here? So if you realize how bad you want to breathe, you're going to realize how bad you want to be successful. So what does that mean? That means you're going to go to whatever it takes. If you have to go and study your butt off 24 hours before a test, that's what it's going to have to take in order to get that. And the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahabas, did they want it bad, or did they just want it somewhat? They wanted it bad. Does anybody know of an example of a Sahaba or a story in the Seerah of the Prophet where they showed and proved how bad they wanted it? Does anybody have anything in mind? An example, a story? Yasser.
I have a story that kind of relates to your story that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So Abdur Rahman mentioned the story of this kid. Basically, he was kind of teaching a lesson. He was almost like trying to make a point that you have to want it really bad. That he was in a situation where he was almost being drowned, right? And the thoughts that went through his head, that like, I'm in this situation where it's life or death, right? And what was the thought that was coming through your mind? Now I want to ask you guys real quick, so,
Fantastic.
Have any of you guys been in a situation that was like near death? Like anything, a car accident, something like that, something similar? What was it?
I was walking to IFS and I was about to cross the street and there was a car coming and I was about to get hit by it.
Okay. Well, let me ask you the question. What was going through your mind like right at that second when that happened?
I was so thankful that I actually lived. The car was so close to hitting me.
Okay. So right at that point, like that point where the car was about to hit you, what was going through your head?
I couldn't even comprehend what was going on because it happened so fast.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have anything similar to
Damra
that?
saved him.
A situation where something happened where, yeah, go ahead.
When the guy pulled up the shotgun on me.
Yes, that situation that we somewhat know about where someone, something happened, trespassing and
I wasn't trespassing.
something like that. But okay.
So what happened?
Interview.
Well, when I saw the shotgun, I didn't know if it was real or not, and I just wanted to get out of there because I knew that if I died, my mom would be sad, So I didn't.
What were you thinking about at that point, right when that was about to happen?
I didn't want my mom to go through all that pain. So.
All right. Does anybody have any? Because I have a story that happened to me like a year ago. I want to say, but does anybody have any other thing that they want to mention real quick? Okay, I'll go through.
There was one, I remember, but it's not, it's more related to pain than death.
Okay, go ahead.
I had an operation, surgery,
Just start going down with the rest.
Okay.
Before that, I was in so much pain, I couldn't even bear it. I would just scream. I didn't scream, but in my mind, it was more like, the whole time I was like, Ya Allah, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to, please cure me, please cure me. This was going through my mind the whole time. Even when I was in the hospital, this was the same thing, Allah cure me. I'm not going to do this, I know I do this bad, this bad, this bad, this bad. And it was so, I was in pain, like too much, like excruciating pain. Like I can't even describe how much pain it was. Because when you have the appendicitis, it's really painful. So yeah, that was going through my mind, and I thought I was gonna die.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is, and also I'm going to mention that story that happened to me, like with the car accident. But the point I'm trying to make is, when push comes to shove, what's in your mind and what are your thoughts is what would normally be your thoughts, is what your heart already kind of believes in. And this thing happened to me, I think, over a year ago now. It was winter, and I was with some brothers at Benedictine, some of my friends, right? And it was a Friday evening, and it was snowing. It was right about this time of year. Maybe it was like February or January, right? And we were going out to eat. We were going to Italian Express in Bolingbrook. And I had 3 brothers sitting in the back and a brother sitting in the front. Actually, we had 4 brothers sitting in the back, but let's not talk about that. But we were going to Italian Express. And I was driving, and we actually had music playing as well, too, right? And in the excuse of it, it was actually, like, I guess it was Islamic music, but it was outlandish, and I don't really count that as Islamic music anyway. But we had that playing, and we had that playing loudly. And for me, I haven't driven in this part of town, so I was just driving, and I was with my friends, and the music was playing. And I'm driving, and I wasn't going above the speed limit. I was going exactly the speed limit. Because it was snowing, but I was still going the speed limit, 35, right? And somehow, like, we were going, and I wasn't familiar with the way, and it was snowing, like, the flurries. It was like the thick, fluffy snuff, right? The thick, fluffy snow that you can't see. Like, if you're outside, you couldn't see past, like, 20 feet. And when you're driving, your wipers are on, and you're driving, right? And I'm driving, and one of my friends who's sitting in the front, all these brothers who I know personally by name, and, I can even, I'll say Ahmad, Yasser Hussein, these guys, all these guys were with me. And, it was Friday, it was after Jummah, we went out, right? And we were there, and I was probably maybe like 30, 40 feet ahead of the turn. But it's like, Yasser, you gotta turn right here. And I couldn't see, and I couldn't drive, so I decided to turn. Right? My car's going 35. I did let go of the accelerator, like, maybe like a minute or 2 ago, but still, I started to turn. And right then and then, my car lost control, right? And now, what happened now in the next maybe 10 seconds of my life, it was like, it's not like in the movies that where they say, like, your life flashes before your eyes. That's not what happened. What happened was, I didn't even realize this, but my car spun out of control. And the thought that was going through my mind is actually, I remember what I learned in driver's ed, Mr. Murphy's class at Willowbrook. Right? I remember what I learned in driver's ed, and I'm like, you know what? Hitting the brakes is not helping at this point. My car is already off its track. It was already going, what's the thing, sideways, not going straight. And before I knew it, my car actually climbed the curb. And I didn't even realize that. That's how quickly this was happening. My car climbed the curb. There were 4 signs, right? And I'm doing this. First thing I turn and miss is the traffic light. This is, I think when I came back and looked at the wreckage, my car probably skid like a good maybe like 100 feet before it came to a stop. And I'll tell you how it came to a stop as well too, right? I turned and my car, I missed the intersection by so much, and I did everything I could. Like at least that's what I'm telling myself, right? But I slowed down. I tried to brake, right? I saw the turn coming up like 30 feet in front of me, but it was snowing. And I turned, and my car, it got on top. Like the first thing I dodged the street light, because I'm like, you know what? I remember what I learned in driver's ed. I took my foot off the brake. I took my foot off the accelerator. I'm like, you know what? We're in for a ride. Let me just steer this thing, to a stop, right? And I turned, and the first street light I dodged was the traffic light. It was red. Actually, it was green, but whatever. But the traffic light. And then the next sign, because my car is still swerving, and everybody in my car, like, there's this kid, everybody was like freaking out, right? One of the kids, I don't know if he got his pants, or I don't know what was going on. Everybody was freaking out, and I'm like, I guess the music was still playing as well too. And this is all happening within a few seconds. The next sign, alhamdulillah, my car also dodged that by swerving the other direction, was a street light. Anyway, but the next sign I dodged was a street light. It was one of those, those huge lights that like light up the street, and it was just as big as the traffic light as well too, right? And then the next sign I dodged was an enterprise sign, and wallahi, my car swerved the other direction for that. But wallahi, when we went back and looked at the tracks in the snow, because my car was on the curb, I missed that sign by like 3 centimeters. Like my car actually did get its little ear or whatever, the side view mirror knocked out. I missed that sign by a little bit. So I dodged the traffic light, I dodged the street light, and I dodged the enterprise sign, enterprise rent-a-car, right? I dodged that. But the last sign, it wasn't so lucky, right? The last sign, I just boom, it was like my car probably had gone maybe like 40 more feet after the enterprise sign, and boom, it plowed it over. Luckily, it was like one of those no parking stop sign kind of signs, but my car just plowed it over. And the reason my car came to a stop was because the sign's underbelly, the sign caught onto the underbelly of my car. Like my car, who do you guys remember the Toyota Camry I used to have?
What do you mean underbelly?
Like, I don't know. But, like my car plowed the sign over, and my car, the reason it came to a stop from moving from the, I was going like 35, I wasn't going ridiculously fast. But the car skid so much, it got caught on that. And all the while, I'm thinking, wallahi, these were all the thoughts that went through my head, right? Every single thought I had through my head was like, what are my parents going to think? Oh my God, how am I going to die? Why is this kid free? What are my parents going to think? Like, the thought that just was coming through my head was, what the heck are my parents going to think? What happens if we die? And I had like a couple seconds to think about this. And I would say like thousands of thoughts coming into my head. Like hundreds, like in those few seconds. I wasn't thinking about my life, I wasn't thinking about these, but I was just so worried about these things that would matter, like, oh crap, like the car, oh there goes this, there goes that, oh, like I was just so caught up in the moment, and I'm thinking about this now, and the brothers in the car, we reflected about this when we ate, alhamdulillah, we were all fine, and we ate the meal afterwards, that alhamdulillah, we survived this incident, but the last thought that came to my mind, was, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. The last thought that even came to my mind at that point was anything Islamic. Because what if that had been my last moment? What if that had been my moment? That kind of shows what you really have. That what if that was my last moment? The last thing I would have said was a 4-letter word. Right? And to think about that, I was so close to that point, and we all could have died, all 5 of us. There could have been another story like Abdur Rahman, or there could have been another Umar Ahmed, there could have been another that. And I constantly think every now and then, what's stopping me from being the next Adnan? What's stopping me from being the next Umar? What's stopping me from being the next, think about these things. That could have been me. Alhamdulillah, the car was okay. The only reason that my license plate, alhamdulillah, I hit that sign dead on. My license plate in the front dented upward. That's how I knocked that sign down. And the underbelly of my car was, it got really, scraped up and things like that. And I had a bunch of problems after that. But alhamdulillah, we all, we drove off, pretended like nothing happened. One sign got, plowed over. And
car was perfectly
we all
fine.
drove off. But I just want to say, these brothers to this day, and that moment right there, that could have been, between life and death, right? That, what thought comes into your mind? What thought actually comes and, that, whatever's in your heart is what's going to come out. So that was just a story I wanted to reflect on, that little moment that happened that you could have what really comes out.
So, yeah, you have to want it bad. So, bad. For example, you're gonna have to want to give up sleep. Right? You want a success more than sleep. But most of us here, we want to sleep more than we want success. But there's going to be times where you might have to pull an all-nighter. And like Hussein and Yasser and people who are in college, they can explain to you what it means to pull an all-nighter. There might be times you can't sleep for 2 days straight. You're only going to have 2 hours of sleep within 48 hours. Right? An example of this is Salat al-Fajr. Right? We all say, man, I love Islam, and I'm so proud to be a Muslim. But when it comes to Salat al-Fajr time, you love your bed more than you love Salat al-Fajr. When you hear the call to adhan, you'd rather stay in your bed with your blankie covering you, all warm and snuggly, instead of waking up for 5 minutes, praying to your Lord, who is even giving you the chance to sleep and wake up, and instead of praying, you'd rather sleep. So how bad do you want success if you'd rather be in your bed than getting up for 5 minutes and worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Point number 2, sacrifice. So at any moment in time, at any moment given, you have to be able to sacrifice what you are, who you are, for what you will become. And a prime example of this is our time management. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says specifically in the Quran when He swears by time, wal asr, innal insana lafi khusr. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Does anybody know the meaning of that? What al-asr means by time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing by time. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by time, it means that it is of significance. It's a very important matter. So wal-asr, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. Verily man will be in loss. What does this mean? Can anybody elaborate quickly on this? Okay, pretty much. But you're in loss if what? If your time is lost also. If you use your time wisely, then you will be successful. And he says that in the following ayah, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, except for those who believe and do righteous. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. What does haqq mean? Does anybody know what haqq means? Truth. And then sabr? Patience. And what does haqq and patience have to do with time?
Patience is when you wait for something through time.
So like, he's saying patience is when you wait something through time. Right? And there's going to be moments in your life where where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to test your patience. Right? Whether it's with your parents, whether it's with a teacher, with a friend. You know, it can be anything. And if you use that time wisely, if you use it to your advantage, you're going to be successful. All right? For example, now that the NBA is back, everyone is glued to their TV when Derrick Rose is when Derrick Rose is playing, right? We're just all right there in the back right now. There's at least 10 of us around the laptop watching the Bulls game. Right? The Bulls games has taken over 3 hours of our life throughout our 24-hour day. And that's not let alone the other like Kobe fans out there, the LeBron James fans out there, the Chicago Bear fans out there, which takes another 3 hours. When you add it up, what does it equal? 6 hours, 9 hours. There goes a third of your day. And the other third of your day is doing what? Sleeping. So you only have a third of your day left. And then that 30 day is left for what? School. So how much time do you have left now for yourself? None. Well, maybe an hour, 2, 3 hours max. And what's another problem that a lot of us have? A lot of us are willing to sacrifice everything when it comes to our cell phones. When we get a text, first thing you do is, oh,
Hey, you have a text.
right? So you go crazy. But what does a phone do? A phone doesn't do anything to you except gives you a phone bill at the end of the day. So you're just giving money back to the phone company. And what are they doing? They're taking time out of your day. And that time out of your day is going to take time out of your life. And that time out of your life is going to be, you're going to wish you had it back on the day of judgment. And it's mentioned in the Quran. When people who didn't have the time, they didn't spend their time wisely, what do they say in the Quran? They say, Ya laytani kuntu turaba. I wish I was dirt. And what's dirt? Dirt is the bottom of the bottom. It's lowest of the low. We walk on dirt, on our feet, and our feet is the lowest part of our body. And they said they would rather be dirt than be at the situation they're in right now. And alhamdulillah, right now, we're all alive. We have this opportunity. Right? In the past year, we lost 4 brothers. They don't have the same opportunity that we have right now. Many of us might have lost family members. They don't have the same opportunity we have now. How many of you wake up and thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving you another day? How many of you wake up and when you go downstairs you see your parents and you think, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, thank you for giving my parents another day. Thank you for letting me have another day with my parents. And how many of us use that day wisely? So when you reflect back and look at the day previously, you can say, I am a better person I am today than I was yesterday. I am a better person I am this Friday than I was last Friday. And I will be a better person next Friday than I was this Friday. How many of us can truly say that this is who we are right now? And if you are, alhamdulillah, keep doing what you're doing. And help others around you do the same thing. And if you're not, then you gotta change ASAP. I'm talking about myself first and foremost. Because everything I'm saying comes to my ears first because it's closest to my mouth. So whatever we have to do, we got to do it right now. Because we don't know if we're going to live tomorrow. Maybe some of us are going to pray Fajr, and when we get home, we go to sleep, we might not see Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, or Isha. Some of us might not see next Salat al-Jum'ah. Some of us might not see the next school year. So whatever time we have now, we have to use it wisely, we have to take advantage of it. And thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving you this time. Right now, as everybody just ask, thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing you to be here right now. And the third thing is never give up. Right? You're gonna go through pain. You're gonna suffer. But pain is temporary. Right? You might be in pain for a day. You might be in pain for a week. a month, maybe a year, but soon enough it will be replaced by something better. But if you give up, then that pain will last forever. What's an ideal example? Right? When you have a relationship with a girl, right? I'm sure many of you know people in school or heard of stories where a guy goes out with a girl, he gets dumped for whatever reason, and then he's heartbroken. So he fell in love, and now he's heartbroken, right? And he's just depressed right now. He can't eat, he can't go to school properly, he can't get good grades. And so what does he? He starts doing things that he usually doesn't do. He's in pain. And what does he? He just gives up. Right? So that pain now is going to last in him forever. Right? But if you move on, if you think of it in a positive way, if you go through the pain. For example, waking up for Salat al-Fajr. It is painful. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. Waking up 5 o'clock in the morning when you just fell asleep 3 hours ago. And you have to get up, go wash your face, go wash your hands, go wash your feet, and then pray 2 rak'ahs. And then you can go back to sleep. It's not an easy job. It's hard. But what's the benefit that comes from praying Salat al-Fajr? The shaitan, there's 3 knots tied around your ear. And when you pray Salat al-Fajr, one of those knots is untied. Also, when you sleep in for Fajr, the shaitan pees in your ear. So if you wake up for Fajr, it prevents that. And when you pray Fajr, everything else in the day is just a lot more better. And try it. Wake up for Salat al-Fajr one day, on time. Pray it, and see how the rest of your day goes. And I'll obviously pray the other 4 prayers also. And don't just leave those alone. But pray it on time with the other 4 prayers, and see how much better your day is than the days where you miss Salat al-Fajr. It's just significant. There's a significant difference in your day. So that was the secular secular aspect or area I was trying to cover. Now it's to the spiritual level. As a Muslim, yes.
Can I say a quick story?
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So this quick story it goes along with the last point of never giving up. So do any of you guys know Sheikh Junaid Khorsani? He's in California. Yeah, some of you guys know. He's really awesome. So last weekend I went to Milwaukee and he was there at a masjid and he was telling a story. And he says this is a story that's going to change a lot of your lives. And I'm like, okay, alright, so change my life, right? And then so he talks about, and this is addressed to mostly high school kids. It can be for college, but it's mostly high school kids, which is like almost all of them.
Can everybody just get into a circle, please? So like at least, so nobody's, like if somebody wants to see Maz, no one's view is blocked or whatever. And it's just respect for the speaker and for those in the circle. So if everybody can just please get into a circle quietly.
Also, guys, if you want to sit up as well too,
Yeah,
help you pay attention.
just show respect for the person to speak and for those around you. Consider
Help you
it.
wake up. You guys can sleep the rest of the year.
Okay, so, alright, so the story. It's mostly for the high school kids, alright? This is going to take place what you guys go through every single day. So in high school, while you guys are walking around in hallways, or, in class and whatever, the one thing that you always fear is of what people think of you, right? That's the one thing you always fear, is what people think of you. And so you dress differently, you act differently, you do different things that you're not accustomed to usually. And so the story takes place back in like a really long time ago, and it takes place in a desert. And so there's a father and there's a son. And just for like, so it makes it easier, we'll name them. So the father will be Akif, and the son will be Ammar. Alright? You want your mom? There's no mom in the story.
Not Dalal.
Next time. Okay, so alright, so in the story, it takes place in the desert. And Akif and Ammar, they have a donkey.
Dalal. Where is my donkey?
This is their means of transportation, this donkey. And so, what the son does, the son, Akif, or who was the son? Ammar. Ammar goes, Akif, I'll let you ride the donkey. How about you ride it, father? You ride it, right? And I'll like that little string that's always attached to it? So, I'll pull that. He's such a nice son, right? And so he's like, okay, fine, son, just go ahead, pull it. And so he's pulling his father on the donkey. And the family comes by, they just randomly come by, and they're like, wow, look at this disgusting father. Look what he's putting his son through. He's putting his son through hell right now. He's making his son drag him. What kind of a father is this? And so the father hears this and he's like, okay, you know what? How about we switch? How about I'll drag this and you sit on the donkey and then we'll go. And so Ammar's like, all right, better for me, right? And so he goes on the donkey now. And the father is the one, Akif, he's the one that's holding the string. And he's dragging the donkey. And so another family comes by and they go, what a disgusting son. Look at what he's doing. He's making his father go through hell. He's making his father like drag him across the desert. What kind of a son is this?
Puh.
Seriously. And so the son hears this and he's like, okay, you know what? How about we both sit on the donkey? We'll both sit on it. And so he's like, okay, you know, that's a good idea. And so they both sit on the donkey. And now they both are going on the donkey, they're traveling across the desert. And a family comes by and they're like, wow, these animals, they're making this donkey go through hell. All of their weight, it's crushing the donkey. Come on, are you serious?
Come on,
So these
the donkey
two,
put him on.
Akif and Ammar, they're like, man, come on. Man, alright, how about we both get off, and then the donkey will have no one on it, and we'll walk with it. We'll both walk with it. So Akif and Ammar, they start walking with the donkey. And they travel across the desert.
That's not what happened.
And then another family comes by. This is probably the same one. This is kind of circus. So a family comes by and they watch this. They're literally, they look at them and they're like, wow, what idiots. They have a donkey and they're not even riding it. What the heck is wrong with these people? And so what this lesson was supposed to show you, this story, was that the whole thing with you, you want people to see you as you want to be, as you see them, right? You want to be like awesome, you want to be cool, you want to be perfect, right? Just like that. And so, with this family, with his son and father, they were doing everything to try and please these people that are walking by. You know, we gotta do something. You gotta like us. Come on. But in the end, everything that they did, someone didn't like it. Someone didn't like it, what they did. And so at the end of the day, what you have to make sure, what you have to understand, is that no matter what you do, you're always going to have haters, you're always going to have people that don't like you. And that no matter what you do, that's the best thing. And no matter what you do, whether you walk around in school in a thobe, I know, I've seen niqabis walking around in school. You know how insane that is? You know how much iman you have to walk around in a niqab? Dude, mashallah, it's sick. I don't even know what to say. And I've seen people walking around with thobes, with dopies, whatever, man. They all walk around with it. They don't care, right? And I walk around in like shorts, and I'm like, man, people look at me, I'm cool. Man. Nobody looks at me, right? So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what people think about you. Just like this family, just like Akif and Ammar went through, you have to understand that no matter what it is, that these people are always going to say something. And no matter what your style is, just do you. Alright? Yeah.
That was off-topic story. Okay, I'm joking. Jazakallah khair, Maz. By the way, that's the new YM coordinator, everybody. No clapping, no clapping. No clapping. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Alright, so can anybody just tell me real quick, what was the 3 keys to success from the secular view, if anybody remembers?
Dang, look at that hair.
First one. Does anybody remember the first one? You can read the first one.
To want it bad.
To want it bad. Okay,
You have to have heart.
what's the second one?
Don't give up.
No, that's the third one.
Sacrifice.
Second one's sacrifice. Third one's don't give up. Okay. Now, the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, who here loves the Prophet ﷺ? Only half of you, mashallah. Who knows the story when he went to Ta'if? Ta'if. A city called Ta'if. So he went to a city of Ta'if, and this was in the early times of Islam. And he goes to the city to, all he's doing is preaching about, tell them that La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, just the basics, the tawheed of Islam. And he's there for 7 days. And as he is preaching and telling them the word, the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's receiving rocks being thrown at him, spit being spat at him, curse words being thrown out and spoken to him, and just the worst and the most dirtiest of attitude and behavior given back to him when he was just trying to say some peaceful words. He took with him a sahabi with him. And the sahabi tried protecting the Prophet ﷺ because the Prophet ﷺ's head was gushing with blood. That they had the young kids, they had the women, and they had the men of the entire city throwing rocks at him, spitting at him, beating the Prophet ﷺ and the sahabi just for merely saying this. And what did the Prophet ﷺ do? He didn't give up. He kept going with it. He kept preaching for 7 days straight. And he was going through torture. And he was going through blood and sweat and tears. And when he walked out, only one person converted. And as he walked out, the angel Jibreel alayhi salam came to him. And he told him, I have the angel of the mountains with me. And if you just say yes, by your command, I can have the city destroyed. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saw how they mistreated the Prophet and how they made him go through pain for an entire week. And what did the Prophet ﷺ say to Jibreel alayhi salam? No, but what else did he say? He had another answer. He said no, because there might be generations coming that will accept this message, that will accept this deen. SubhanAllah, look at the mercy of the Prophet ﷺ. He went through the worst of torture. He went through awful pain. And instead of saying, yeah, go ahead, kill these people. Because I guarantee you if it was any one of us, we would have said it yes in a heartbeat. I know for sure I would have definitely done it. But the Prophet ﷺ said no because he was thinking of the future. And who's the future? Us. Whoa. Right? If the Prophet ﷺ gave up when the angel Jibreel ﷺ came to him when he was in Cave Hira, and he was squeezing him, saying, Iqra. And the Prophet is in a little cave. Imagine somebody has a gun to your head, and he says, fly. I want to see you fly right now. How are you going to, it's physically impossible to fly, correct? Nobody here can get wings or can flap his arms and just start flying and elevating. It's physically impossible. We can all agree to that. So imagine somebody, just right now, imagine you're sitting down. Somebody has a gun to your head, and just with the movement of his finger, your life is gone. And he says, fly. What are you going to do? I can't fly. How are you going to fly? You can't fly, right? And you're going to scream and yell and cry, I can't fly. And he's going to shove that gun deep into your head. And you'll fly, I want you to fly. You can't fly. The same thing was going on with the Prophet ﷺ. Angel Jibreel was squeezing him till he felt that his ribs were about to break. And he said, read. And we know the Prophet ﷺ is illiterate. So he said, I can't read. And he squeezed him even harder. And he said, read. And the Prophet ﷺ said, I can't read. And he told him a third time. And he said, read in the name of your Lord. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. And that was the first revelation that came down to the Prophet ﷺ. And then from there on, the rest of the Quran was revealed. But what if the Prophet ﷺ gave up right there? Because he was scared. Because not only did he end up reading, but when he got out of the cave, he started running down. And what was he seeing everywhere he looked up? Angel Jibreel alayhi salam. Just imagine. Imagine this guy with the gun to your head. He's saying fly. And let's say somehow you manage to fly. And then you run away. And every corner you turn, you see him pointing the gun at you. Every corner you turn. The Prophet ﷺ was in that same situation. He saw the angel Jibreel everywhere he turned. And then he went to his wife. And he says, cover me, cover me. And then through her comfort and through her nice words, she helped him go through this. He was going through pain, but he pushed through it. And if he didn't continue his job, then where would we be right now? Would we even be Muslim right now? So the Prophet ﷺ had to go through pain and suffering also. Even though he was the best of humans, the best of men that ever walked on this earth. He could have had all the riches in the world. He could have had it all, but he sacrificed everything To the point where once he used to sleep on a very hard, it was like a straw, like mat. That's what he used to sleep on. It was very hard. And once Aisha radiallahu anha, she felt bad for him. And so she put two. She put one on top of the other. And it made the Prophet ﷺ sleep through the entire night without praying tahajjud. It's not even something soft. It's very hard. Imagine putting I don't even know what, like concrete and then another slab of concrete and sleeping on that. That's what and then the Prophet ﷺ, he would sacrifice just this little piece of thing so he can wake up all night and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Aisha radiallahu anha asked the Prophet ﷺ, why do you ask Allah for forgiveness? Why do you even worship? Why do you pray all night? To the point that there's cracks on your feet. He says, shouldn't I be a grateful servant? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me all of this, He granted me Jannah, forgave me of all my sins, shouldn't I be at least grateful for Him in order to stand up in the middle of the night and worship Him? So the Prophet ﷺ, he had to go through suffering too. Worse than what we had to go through. And we're over here crying about a test. Or we're crying because our parents won't let us out. The problem with us nowadays, we're spoiled. We're very soft. We don't want to take pain. When we see pain, we want to run away from it. How are you going to get through things? How are you going to become a man if you can't even take pain? And so the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahabas, they went through pain. Much worse than what you've ever gone through. And look what they've become. 1400 years later, Islam is the fastest growing religion. And alhamdulillah, we're all part of it. Now as a Muslim, if you find yourself unsuccessful as a Muslim, you're like, man, why can't I pray? Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? There's this other, look at him, he's a hafiz. Look at this guy, he's having the best life ever. His parents are happy with him. Right? I'm going, I know at one point I was definitely going through this, and still to this point, there's times where like, man, I wish I could be like this kid. Right? That means you're doing something wrong. And as a Muslim, I'm going to give you three, of course there's many things that we should be doing in order to be successful, but I'm going to focus on three of these things. The first one is prayer. Your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you're finding your life just going up and down like a roller coaster, one day it's good, the next day it's bad, check how your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. How is your prayer? Because this prayer is what is going to get you into Jannah. This is one of the pillars of Islam. And when you build a building, the first thing they do is they build a foundation. And without a foundation, you can't have a building, right? If you have 4 pillars here, and you take one of them out, the building's going to collapse this way. If you take the other one out, it's going to collapse this way. And what's one of the pillars of Islam? Prayer. So if you take prayer away, then your life is going to go lopsided one direction. And trying to get it back to the other direction is going to be hard without prayer. So you have to make sure prayer is in your daily life 5 times a day on time. Because this is your one-on-one, this is the one time you can talk directly to the one who created you. This is the one time you can thank Him for letting you even pray that one prayer. And it's not hard at all. It's just 5 prayers a day. Compared to what was the original? 50, right? In the Isra Mi'raj? 50.
Yeah.
It was first ordered to be 50. And then Musa ﷺ told the Prophet ﷺ, go back and tell him to decrease it all the way until 5. And how long does a prayer take realistically? Like 5 minutes. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. If you're as religious as me, maybe an hour or 2, But this is your one time. Just take 5 minutes out, during the Bulls game. During the timeout, during the commercial break. 5 minutes, go pray Maghrib, go pray Isha, and then come back. You're not going to miss anything. Right? If anything, you're going to gain more because you took time to talk to your Lord, to thank Him, to worship Him, and then you still got to watch your game. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The second thing is your parents. And I'm telling myself first and foremost, respect your parents, especially your mother. Your mother, 9 months, she had to deal with you, kicking her, giving her pain, making her throw up in the middle of the night when she didn't want to throw up, making her ankles fat to the point where she can't even walk anymore because it gave her pain, making her stay up all night. When she would eat, you would eat the food that she was eating, so she would be always hungry. She would always have to use the bathroom. She was going through tremendous pain just for your health and benefit. And then after you were born, she didn't stop there. All night when you were crying, she stayed up with you. She changed your diapers when you would poop your pants. She would feed you when you needed it, out of her own body. When you needed to be changed, she was the one changing you. When you needed someone to be there, she was always there for you. And now that we're older, we think, oh, I don't need anybody. I don't need my mom and dad. I can do everything on my own. But you do need your parents. Your mom didn't stop there either. All the way till this point right now, your mom, all she does is care about you and think about you. When I leave the house, I'm 19 years old now. When I leave the house, it might be 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning. My mom knows exactly where I am and with who I am, and she's still blowing up my phone. Because a mom can never stop thinking about her son or daughter, ever. Till the day she dies, she cannot stop thinking about her son or daughter. And you have to respect your parents. You can't just neglect them and just push them away, say, I don't need you. You need your parents more than they need you. Because your parents went through it all. Right? Granted, they might be fobs. My parents are fobs. You know, probably 99% of the kids here, all our parents are fobs. Yes, they came from a different generation. So things are different. Right? And that also comes from a parent perspective. They have to understand that we're going through different things than they're going through. But the gist of it, the general meaning, they know what you're going through. So when they're telling you, no, you can't leave the house, and you're complaining, you're like, man, you're calling up your boy, man, I hate my mom. She's so mean. Yeah, she's mean. Yeah, she's gonna yell at you. Yeah, your dad's gonna beat you. But look at the man you've become now. If your parents just spoil you, what are you gonna become? That spoiled brat, rich kid who gets whatever he wanted just had to save a word? Or because your dad, yeah, he did whip you a couple times. Or your mom, yeah, she didn't let you hang out on that Saturday night. Because she knew that something wrong was happening. Or she knew that this was best for you. And now, when you look at it, 20 years later, you're going to say, yeah, I am the man I am right now because of my parents. And so respect your parents and thank them before it's too late. The worst thing that a parent can go through is seeing her own son or daughter die before they do. So before Allah, you know, Allahu A'lam knows when any of us are going to pass away. But before we do, or before our parents do, at least tell them thank you for what you have done. How many of us actually tell our parents, I love you? I know if I don't. I think I'm too cool I'm a big man, macho man. I don't do it. I know I should, but I just don't do it. I don't think I've ever thanked my parents either for anything. But they're always there for you. The littlest things you might not realize. All those times they give you a car ride to your friend's house. All the times that your mom packed your lunch or cooked you dinner. What about the clothes you're wearing right now? Did any of you buy it out of your own money or is it from your dad's pocket? The house you're living under, your dad's paying for it. Everything that we're living with, everything that we're living by is provided and supported through our parents. And we have to respect them.
Can I say another quick story? Alright, so a quick story about parents. I've said this story before. It's a famous YouTube story. It takes place in the time of Musa alayhi salam. And I've said this before. I don't know if you guys know this. But it takes place in the time of Musa alayhi salam. So Musa alayhi salam, he's talking with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Directly, he's talking with him. And he says, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is going to be my companion in Jannah? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds and he says, a butcher. And so Musa alayhi salam, you know, he's kind of baffled. He's like, everyone, a butcher is going to be my companion in Jannah. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, yes, you can find him over there. Like this, he points him in the direction. And so Musa alayhi salam, he goes on a journey to find this person, to find this butcher. And for those of you that don't know, a butcher cuts meat. So he goes to find this butcher, and he finally finds him after this journey. And he observes what he's doing in his shop. And it's just like any other normal person. You know, he's cutting up meat, and then, you know, the day's by, the day's over now. And so he takes all of his meat, all of the stuff that's left over. He takes it, he packs it, and he takes it with him home. So Musa alayhi salam follows him home. And when they come to his front door, Musa alayhi salam, he approaches him, and he says, will you invite me inside? And the butcher says, of course, come inside. And so they go inside. And Musa alayhi salam is just sitting there, he's just observing now. He's just, what's so special about this guy? He hasn't done anything so far. And so the butcher, what he does is, he takes that meat, all of that meat that was left over, he cooks it, he cuts it up, he puts it on a plate, and then what he does is he gets up and he goes to like the other side of the room, and he grabs something, and then out of this this very big like a basket, right? Out of this very big basket, like huge one, sorry. Out of this huge one, he pulls out a lady. She's laying in the basket. She's very old. So she's sleeping in this basket. I mean, yeah, it's weird, but still. Anyway, so he pulls out this lady and he puts it into. He's sitting like this, and he puts it into his arms, like how a mother would hold a baby. He's holding this person. He's holding this woman just like that. And he takes all of this food. He takes the meat, the cooked meat. He puts it into his mouth and he starts biting it. He starts chewing it into little pieces. And he takes that and he puts it into this woman's mouth. And she starts to eat. And every time she eats some, she says something. And so Musa he sees this and he's like, what is she saying? Who is this lady? What is she saying? And so after this butcher feeds her, he puts her back, he cleans his stuff up, whatever, and then he sits down again. And Musa is like, okay, I have two questions. First of all, who is this lady? And the butcher goes, this is my mother. And then Musa is like, all right, okay. So what is she saying every time you feed her? She says something, she's murmuring something, but I don't understand. What is she saying? And so the butcher says, my mother makes dua for me. She makes dua. She says, oh Allah, make my son, the butcher, make my son the companion of Musa in Jannah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted a dua. And that's how the butcher became the companion of Musa alayhi salam in Jannah. And so it just goes to show you how strong the dua of his mother is, of any mother. That's how strong it is. And that's how you have to take care of your parents. To that extent. That even in his old age, he's taking care of his mother, who is extremely old. She can't move anymore. And he's feeding her. He's taking everything. He's biting that food. He's feeding it to her. That's how.
Jazakallah khair. And I got actually another story that's about pretty much the same thing, but instead of good, it's bad. And it's a personal story. Back when I was a freshman, I was on the basketball team at Willowbrook, and we had practice. And so I was doing pretty well in practice. But before this all happened, my life at that time, and you can even ask my brother, he's right here, I was a bad kid. To tell you straight, I was a very bad kid, especially with my parents. Like super bad. Like I showed no respect at all. And so I remember I left the house and my mom was super mad at me that day. She was very mad at me and I walked out the house. I didn't even say Assalamu alaikum to her or anything, I just walked out. And so the day goes on, I come to practice and we're doing a 5-on-5 scrimmage. And I steal the ball from a kid. And I'm by myself going up for a layup and he pushes me from behind. And I land on my ankle and it breaks, my bone just breaks in two different parts of my ankle. And I'm out for 3 months, 4 months. I'm on my crutches during the winter. So it was awful. And a month into my injury, I was talking to my mom. And she said, do you know how that happened? And I said, well, yeah, the kid pushed me and stuff. She's like, no. She's like, when you walked out that door that day, I was so mad at you that I made dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would teach you a lesson. And that was my lesson. So don't ever get your parents mad at you. Because your mom can say anything. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be so mad with you, and He will do whatever He wants to do with you. And I got it easy. It was just a broken ankle. But till this day, my ankles are gone. You can ask anybody. Akif here knows, Yunus knows, Miles knows, they all know. My ankles, they're gone. Just because I pissed off my mom that one day. I have to live with this for the rest of my life. So now I remember every time not to piss off my mom because I don't want something even worse happening to me. And now the third thing is...
Can I ask you something real quick? Not to go a little long, but have you, we know that what we feel when, and sometimes, yes, our parents do not, bit best behavior in terms of treating us. But have we ever thought about what they go through when they see us doing these kind of things? You would have heard of stories or know people who are in college. Like I'm in college. You may have a roommate, like you have an apartment together. This guy was nothing. You helped him come to the apartment. You helped him, you cooked the food. You helped this guy out. You helped him to become, successful. You helped him with the situation too. You paid his bills to some extent. And then, when you've done all of this for maybe like 2 or 3 years, this guy leaves you. He says, I don't need you anymore. Get out of my life. He says, get out of my life. I don't need you. Do you just imagine how will you feel? How will you feel that this person that you took off the streets and you bring him in your own house, in your own apartment, you're feeding for his own, for his own food, you're helping him survive, you're helping him getting a college degree, and then he just leaves you. Says, I don't need you anymore. Not even a thanks. Do you know how you'll feel? Just imagine. I want everybody to please think about this. Do you think, how will you feel? You feel kind of this guy, ungrateful little piece of, nothing, something. I don't want to say these foul language right now. But just imagine, I'm being honest. Just imagine, how will you feel with that person? That ungrateful person. That ungrateful person who I picked off the streets. And I bought him my own house. I fed him with my own hands. I helped this guy out. And now he leaves me and says, I haven't done anything from you. Imagine what your parents think, especially your mother. Before your birth and after your birth. Please, if any of you have younger siblings, and you saw, if they're like infants, if they were born right in front of you, you saw how your mom treated that little kid. You saw how you should get up in the evening and take care of her. You saw. I've seen it with my own eyes, with my own sister, with my niece. You see they get up in the evening, they don't even care about their husband anymore. Their kid is their life. Nothing else. And when you go through these things, when you make them go through these things, do you imagine what they go through? The kind of emotional torture you're making them go through? That they raise you till 18, 15 years and you're slamming the door in their face, saying you don't understand what I'm going through. Do you imagine what they go through? Do you imagine what they go through? Just think about that next time you talk back to your parents. Same applies for me. Think about it.
I'm going to wrap up real quick because Brother Saqib is here. But really, taking what he had to say, because yes, Brother Abdulaziz, because those can really help us, each one of us. Just real quickly, because Brother Saqib is here and he's going to be talking about a topic I'm sure all of you guys want to hear about. So I'll just wrap this up real quick. The third thing that we need to focus on is the Quran. As I said before, the Quran is the words of the best, sent through the best of angels, to the best of man, and it is preserved until this day 1400 years later. So it shows and it's proven that this is the best of words, the best of message, so why don't we just implement it within our life? But how many of us go check your house and see how much dust your Quran has collected? Instead of being a constant reminder, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikra, we have verily sent down this reminder. But for us it is only a reminder 1 month out of the year during Ramadan. And possibly only the last week of Ramadan, or possibly just the 27th night of Ramadan. But this should be a constant reminder. Daily or weekly. Even if you can't read it daily, read it on a weekly basis. At least just one ayah a day even. It's better than nothing. So I'm going to quickly just conclude. There's a lot of brothers, I'm sure you guys maybe have heard or whatever, but it's like, man, I love Islam, right? I love the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm ready to die for the Prophet, right? How are you going to die for the Prophet if you can't even live like the Prophet? Or how are you going to die for the Prophet if you don't even know who the Prophet is, but you know the whole biography of Derrick Rose? When Derrick Rose is on, you're on. Your mouth and eyes and everything's just glued onto the TV screen. But when there's something spoken about the Prophet, you just walk away from it. Or, bro, I love Islam, but I'm ready to die right now for the deen. How are you going to die for the deen if you're not even living your life as a Muslim. Right? So we all need to fix something within our lives. For some of us, it's different than others. But we can all help each other out. And the one key guide to success is the Quran. Because the Quran was the character of the Prophet, and the Prophet was brought down to perfect character. And the Quran is the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if we just read the Quran and implement just one ayah of it within our life, it will change our entire life, the entire aspect of life. And inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will recognize that and He'll grant us the highest level of Jannah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for any deeds that we have committed.
Ameen.
We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us Jannah al-Firdaus.
Ameen.
We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to perfect our character and our relationship with our parents.
Ameen.
To show our mothers and fathers respect.
Ameen. MashaAllah.
To show our friends and our brothers and sisters respect.
Ameen.
We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us in times of hardship.
Ameen.
And to allow us to recognize Him when we need Him the most. And to thank Him when He has helped us through those struggles.
Ameen.
We also ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to get us closer to Him, to help us wake up for Salat al-Fajr, to help us pray all 5 prayers on time, to help us get closer to the Quran and allow us to love it. وآخر دعوانا والحمد لله رب العالمين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين والعصر إن الإنسان في خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.